Good morning, everyone. I'm Brandon Carson, Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Broadband Development Authority. We're here today to remind everyone of the importance of the recently released FCC National Broadband Maps and their impact on the amount of federal funding Pennsylvania will receive to improve access to reliable, high-speed internet services. Joining me today is Senator Phillips-Hill and Chief Lash. Chief, thank you for hosting us here today. Thank you both for being here and for sharing remarks on this important issue. So the Broadband Authority was created nearly a year ago to administer state and federal funding for broadband initiatives across the Commonwealth. In order to effectively administer funds and ensure access for all, we recently announced the completion of a statewide broadband plan. The plan focuses on challenges and opportunities for broadband, including the availability of internet service, digital equity and affordability, device and technology access, and digital literacy and technical support. However, before we can implement the plan, we need to act now to ensure Pennsylvania receives the federal resources needed to address the digital divide that exists across the state. So last month, the FCC announced the initial release of the National Broadband Map. This map provides information on the level of internet service available at each address across the country. The previous maps were at a much larger geography in terms of the accuracy and level of information being provided. So this detail is provided at the address level. While the new map's an improvement over the previous maps, it inaccurately reports some areas as being served with high-speed internet when they are in fact not. This is important because the map will be used to determine how the $42 billion available through the federal bipartisan infrastructure bill will be allocated to the states to support broadband expansion. To ensure Pennsylvania receives the funding needed to address the connectivity issues that exist in our communities, we recently announced a partnership with Penn State to develop and update state broadband maps and to help to verify the accuracy of the FCC data. Today we're encouraging all Pennsylvanians to visit the FCC National Broadband Map website and to verify the accuracy of the information that's being reported for your address prior to the January 13th deadline that the FCC has imposed. You have the opportunity to submit a challenge to the FCC if you feel the information that's been reported for your home or business is not accurate. This is important because Pennsylvania will receive additional federal funding for each unserved address that is, or each address that is unserved. To assist with this process, we're announcing a statewide listening session tour where individuals can learn more about the Broadband Authority, the FCC map, and how to challenge inaccurate data that's been reported on the map. There will be 8 sessions held in each of the regions across the Commonwealth over the next week, and everyone is welcome to attend. Business owners, local governments, nonprofits, local elected officials, and of course, members of the general public. So in closing, I want to thank Chief Lash and the Northern County Regional Police Department for hosting us here today and helping to reinforce the importance of reliable high-speed internet service for school, work, and public safety. So now I'd like to hand things over to Senator Phillips-Hill. The Senator serves on the Board of Directors for the Broadband Authority and has worked tirelessly to improve broadband access here in York County and across the state. Senator?
Well, thank you to everyone for being here today. Thank you for the kind introduction. Special thanks to Chief Lash and Northern York County Regional Police Department for graciously hosting us. I'm sure it's not lost on you. You probably didn't have cell phone service out in the parking lot. You have it in here right now because they have boosters to help you connect. So As Brandon noted, I'm Kristin Phillips-Hill. It is a great honor to represent the 28th Senatorial District, which includes, where we are standing right here today, Heidelberg Township. In addition to serving York Countyans in the state legislature, I'm also a member of the Pennsylvania Broadband Development Authority, as Brandon noted. So we are standing in Northern York County Regional Police Officer Tomes Substation. And again, look at your cell phones. When you were out in that parking lot, you didn't have access to wireless high-speed internet or probably 4G or 5G service. The Broadband Development Authority was created and is tasked with the responsibility of managing and distributing that massive influx of federal taxpayer dollars that will be allocated to Pennsylvania. And those funds are dedicated to bringing high-speed internet access to unserved and underserved areas. These tax dollars, they are coming from the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that Congress approved last year. At the end of the day, this is not state money, it's not my money, it's not anyone in this room's money, it is taxpayers' money. And we are the fiscal stewards, and we are tasked with driving this funding to its intended purpose, the places that lack access to high-speed internet. And that is why today and the next several weeks are going to be absolutely critical in our shared goal of bringing high-speed broadband to as many homes, businesses, schools, libraries, and other places across the state in the most cost-effective and efficient manner. So the Federal Communication Commission, the FCC, has tasked every state with a very short time frame to look at its maps that will be used to determine where that federal funding will go. In fact, looking at the FCC map, before I came over here today, it shows that this entire area is covered with strong 4G LTE cellular connectivity, and in some instances, 5G connectivity. The whole region is labeled at 100% connected. However, I know that after representing this area for the last 4 years in the Senate of Pennsylvania, that nothing could be further from the truth. Brandon said, and I'm going to say it again, we need each and every one of you to weigh in on these maps. You need to visit broadbandmap.fcc.gov, type in your address, and see if it shows your home, your business, where your child goes to school, and see if you have internet connectivity. If it's incorrect, you can challenge it. Look, it's not lost on me that we are asking people who don't have access to internet to visit a website to see if they have internet, right? That's crazy. So if you can't access the internet, call your legislator, call your state senator, call your state representative. If you're in Southern York County, call me, right? We can assist you in the challenge process. The authority is going to fight to make sure that every individual who lacks access is heard through this process. But you need to speak up. You need to check out that map. You need to call your legislator's office. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get this done and to get it done right. Your input means that we'll have the best data possible to make data-driven decisions on where these federal dollars will be spent. And we have a little more than 1 month to get this data. So I want to thank you all again for coming, and I'd now like to turn it over to my good friend and one of the community leaders on the fight to expand access to high-speed internet, Chief David Lash of Northern York County Regional Police Department. Chief Lash.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Brandon. And thank you for everyone for coming out. My name's Dave Lash. I'm the Chief of Police in Northern York County Regional Police Department. If you're not familiar with our agency, we are the first regional police department in the Commonwealth, as well as the largest. We currently provide police services to 11 municipalities here in York County, which is 25% of the population. I think you can agree with me that most of us take wireless access, wireless connectivity, internet for granted. I know I did. And that changed for us here at Northern Regional on September 15th of 2021. On that date last fall, so 14, 15 months ago, we had a juvenile autistic female go missing from her home, just about a mile up the road from our current location. It was approaching nightfall, and time was of the essence to find this young woman. As we began mobilizing resources for what would become an extensive search and rescue operation, one obstacle continued to hamper our efforts, and that obstacle was a lack of communication and reliable wireless communication and data transmission. During situations like this, communications between all responding assets need to take place. Due to the complexity of the conversations and the situation, they can't take place over traditional two-way police radio. We need constant and consistent wireless connectivity during major events to protect public safety. When attempting to establish a command post for that incident, we had a couple of choices. One was the building where we're currently located, and the other, which is the Porter's Fire Department, which is across the street. Unfortunately, both buildings lacked the ability for us to use as a staging area or a mainstream dispersion area for assets because we were unable to communicate over the cellular network. We have access in the building, as we talked about, but that's because of extensive efforts on our part to install proper boosters to make sure that we have proper coverage in our building. We were able to work through our situation. Fortunately, we had a happy ending that could have been a nightmare. 18 hours of searching for this young woman with very limited cellular communications. I'd like to thank Senator Phillips-Hill and her staff for continuing to work with emergency responders and to understand the importance that wireless communication and broadband internet plays in our drives to keep our communities safe. I know that during that event, and I'll compliment the Senator on this and her Chief of Staff, I called them that morning and I was not a happy camper because of the lack of cell coverage out in this area. It was frustrating. But to their credit, they were able to quickly mobilize some assets and to deploy some mobile towers into the area to help us with communication efforts. The lack of wireless communications and internet access is not limited to this valley, but it repeats itself again and again throughout this part of York County. The maps are wrong. We need your help to correct them. Please help us help you and have your voices be heard. Thank you again for coming and allowing me to speak. I'd like to thank the Senator and DCED and their staffs for getting this important message out to our citizens. Thank you. I turn it back over to Brandon.
Thank you, Chief Lash. Thank you, Senator. Very well said. So at this time, we'd like to open it up for some questions. Yes.
Hi there, I'm Tia with the York Dispatch. I'm curious, the mapping issue that you're experiencing, is this a statewide issue or is this York County specific where these maps are incorrect? Or in your talks with other senators and folks across the Commonwealth, are you finding that this is a larger scale issue? Yeah,
this is very much a statewide issue. We've heard about reports here in York County and concerns about the accuracy of the data. That is not unique to the Commonwealth. We're getting a lot of reports of inaccurate data being shown on the maps. So we're working to do our due diligence now between today and January 13th, that deadline that's been set by the FCC, to ensure that we are identifying those areas that are being shown as served and ensuring that we're coordinating the appropriate challenges. I do want to add that the state is working on a bulk challenge of both locations and service availability data. I mentioned that we're partnering with Penn State. That's some of the work that Tom and the crew at Penn State are going to be doing for us in the coming weeks. That will supplement some of these individual challenges, but it's important that folks check their address specifically so that you're not missed as part of the conversation here. You're welcome.
Brandon, can you describe how the money would flow down? Obviously, that $42 billion that's been kind of enumerated for this nationwide, like how will that kind of branch out, and how important is it for people to let the government know, like, hey, these are pockets of areas that need money for upgrades?
Yes, so the $42 billion, and it's available through the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, or BEAD, as administered by the NTIA, National Telecommunications and Information Administration. Each state is guaranteed $100 million in funds out of that $42 billion in BEAD funding. That is the floor. So depending on the number of unserved addresses in each of the states, that will determine exactly how that allocation of funds is made to the states. So we've seen initial reports of up to $1 billion that would potentially come to Pennsylvania. That is in question here if the data that's been reported by the FCC is not accurate and it doesn't meet the conditions on the ground in terms of available service. Additional questions?
Dave, this one's for you. If can you you talked about the one event for the search for the missing girl. Can you how does lack of internet and also lack of cell service affect officers, public safety, like on a daily basis? What would that look like?
Yeah, out in this area, Mike, we have numerous pockets of no coverage. You can be at the top of a ridge and have coverage. You can be in the valley like we are and have nothing. And that affects our officers on a daily basis. Most of what we do in law enforcement in our police cars is connected through cellular data. So our in-car computers are connected through cellular data. License plate readers are connected through cellular data. Even part of our communication or radio system is connected through cellular data. So officers need to become accustomed of where they have signal and where they don't have signal. And unfortunately, in emergency situations, we don't always get to choose those locations. And so we're often responding in areas that have absolutely no cellular connection and oftentimes poor radio reception on our two-way radios. So the officers need to deal with that, and we have to look at that as a safety aspect, not only for our officers, but also the community that we're serving, and that's things that we balance on a daily basis.
I mean, can it put officers and public lives in danger?
Yes. And the short answer to that is yes. Every time that we're hampered by communication efforts, or people can't call 911 or can't make notification to the 911 system, or someone can't check on one of our police officers or a firefighter that's on a call because of that lack of communications, it definitely puts our citizens and our officers at risk for injury or death.
Any additional questions? Okay, well, hearing none, I want to thank you all for coming out this morning and hearing what we have to say. This is an important issue, and I can assure you the Broadband Authority is going to be working diligently in the coming weeks and months. Frankly, this January 13th deadline is one of the first deadlines we're up against. But there's a significant amount of planning work that's going to take place in 2023 as we gear up for the allocation of that $42 billion that will come to Pennsylvania. We likely won't see any of those dollars until early 2024, just to give you a sense for the time frame. So between now and when those dollars start to flow for deployment projects, the authority has a significant amount of planning work that has to be done per the NTIA's requirement for this program. And we're going to be working to stand up our programs that will outline exactly how we're going to administer these dollars across the state. So that's a lot of the work that the authority, and we'll be working closely with Senator Phillips-Hill and the board on that next year as we lay the foundation for some successful investments here in the future. So thank you again for coming out, and enjoy the rest of your day.